I never thought a simple piece of fabric could change everything between us. It was just an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, and I was doing what any normal person does when summer approaches, sorting through old clothes. You know how it is, right? That yearly ritual of deciding what still fits and what needs to go. My husband was away on another business trip, the third one this month, and the house felt emptier than usual. That's when I found it, tucked away in the back of my drawer, my old royal blue bikini from 5 summers ago, before I married Robert and became a stepmother to his college-age son, Tyler. If you've ever found something from your past that suddenly makes time collapse, you'll understand what I felt in that moment. Before I even realized what I was doing, I was holding it up against myself in the mirror, wondering if it would still fit after all these years. You know what? I decided to try it on. What harm could it do? Nobody was home except me, or so I thought. My bedroom door was slightly ajar, but I didn't bother closing it. Why would I? Tyler wasn't supposed to be home for another hour after his summer job. The bikini fit differently now. My body had changed, not dramatically, but in those subtle ways that only you notice about yourself. The small wrinkles around my eyes that appeared when I smiled, the slight softness around my waist that wasn't there before. But standing there, I felt a strange surge of confidence. At 35, I didn't look half bad. For the first time in months, I actually felt seen, even if it was just me seeing myself. If you enjoy stories about the complex emotions that swirl beneath the surface of family dynamics, hit that subscribe button for tales of lust. Trust me, this story is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next. I was lost in my own thoughts, turning sideways to see how the bikini looked from different angles when I caught a movement in the mirror's reflection. Just outside my door, a shadow paused. Then I saw him, Tyler, my stepson, standing frozen in the hallway, his eyes fixed on me. Our gazes met in the mirror, and for one breathless moment, neither of us moved. I could see something in his expression I'd never noticed before, something that made my heart race and my cheeks flush with heat. He disappeared so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Almost. But the burning sensation in my chest told me it was real. What was that look? Embarrassment at catching me? Or something else entirely? I quickly changed back into my jeans and t-shirt, my hands trembling slightly. What was wrong with me? He was my stepson. 22 years old. Robert's son. I was just embarrassed about being caught in a bikini, that's all. Nothing more to it. I told myself this as I folded the bikini and shoved it into the back of my drawer, under layers of practical cotton underwear and sensible pajamas. Dinner that night was excruciating. Tyler couldn't look me in the eye, focusing intensely on his plate as if his pasta held the secrets of the universe. I kept my voice deliberately casual, asking about his day at work, but even I could hear the slight tremor underneath my words. When our fingers accidentally brushed as we both reached for the salt, I felt a jolt of something that I immediately buried under layers of guilt and confusion. "I'm heading to bed early," he finally said, still not meeting my gaze. "Got an early start tomorrow." After he left, I sat alone at the kitchen table, my food growing cold as I stared at the empty chair across from me. What was happening? Why couldn't I stop replaying that moment in the mirror? The way his eyes had widened, the way time seemed to stop for those few seconds. I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years, not since the early days with Robert, before his business became his entire world, before our conversations dwindled to logistical discussions about grocery lists and bill payments. The next few days passed in a strange dance of avoidance and hyper-awareness. Tyler started offering to help with groceries, something he'd never done before. He'd carry the heavy bags inside, his forearms flexing with the weight. Sometimes our hands would brush and he'd pull away as if burned. Other times, I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, not in a creepy way, but with a kind of wondering curiosity that made me feel both uncomfortable and strangely alive. We found ourselves having late-night conversations in the kitchen, him grabbing a midnight snack, me claiming insomnia as the reason for my presence. Our talks started innocently enough, his classes, my work, books we'd both read, but there was an undercurrent to them, a tension humming beneath the surface. I found myself laughing more, sharing stories I'd never told him before. I caught myself touching my hair, my neck, gestures I recognized from my dating days but hadn't used in years. "You're different when Dad's not around," he said one night as we sat at the kitchen island, mugs of tea growing cold between us. "More. I don't know. Yourself." His observation hit too close to home, piercing through the careful facade I'd built. When had I stopped being myself? When had Robert and I become such strangers to each other? And why did it take my stepson noticing for me to realize it? One evening, about a week after the Bikini incident, Robert called to say he'd be extending his trip another 4 days. I heard the relief in his voice. He was more alive in his work than he ever was at home with me. After hanging up, I found myself standing in front of my bedroom mirror again, staring at my reflection as if searching for the woman I used to be. That's when Tyler knocked on my open door. I turned, startled, wrapping my cardigan tighter around myself even though I was fully dressed. "Everything okay?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. The hallway light behind him created a silhouette that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. When had he grown so tall? "So, adult?" "Your dad's staying away longer," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Again, something flickered across Tyler's face. Understanding, perhaps, or something deeper. He stepped into my room, closer than he'd allowed himself to come all week. "He doesn't see you," Tyler said quietly. "Not really." The words hung in the air between us, loaded with meanings neither of us should acknowledge. My heart hammered against my ribs as he took another step closer. "I know I shouldn't say this," he continued, his voice barely above a whisper, "but you looked beautiful that day. In the blue bikini." Time seemed to stop. The air in the room grew thick, charged with unspoken possibilities. I could feel heat rising to my face, my neck, spreading across my chest. 1,000 responses flashed through my mind. I should be angry, should remind him of boundaries, should laugh it off as inappropriate. Instead, I stood frozen, caught between flattery and guilt, between the woman I was supposed to be and the woman who desperately wanted to feel desired again. "Tyler," I began, not even knowing what I planned to say next. He shook his head slightly. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. It's just, I see you, Sarah. The real you. The one who laughs at midnight over stupid jokes. The one who reads poetry when no one's watching. The one who looks sad when she thinks no one can see." His words struck something deep inside me, some lonely part that had been invisible for so long I'd forgotten it existed. Was this what I'd been missing? Not just desire, but recognition? Someone who actually saw me? "We can't have this conversation," I finally managed, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "You know we can't." "I know," he said, taking a step back, creating space between us again. "I know that. I just needed you to know that someone sees you." After he left, I sat on the edge of my bed, my legs suddenly too weak to support me. What was I doing? What was I feeling? The guilt crashed over me in waves, but beneath it was something else, a tiny flicker of life, of awakening, of possibility. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every glance, every word. Was it wrong to feel seen? To feel alive again after so long? I thought about Robert, about our marriage that had slowly cooled from passion to politeness to something approaching indifference. I thought about loyalty and vows and family. I thought about Tyler, who was supposed to be my stepson, but who somehow saw more of me than his father ever had. The next morning, I made a decision. I packed a small bag and wrote a note saying I needed a few days at my sister's to clear my head. It wasn't running away. It was giving us both space to reset whatever had started to shift between us. As I was loading my car, Tyler came outside, his expression unreadable. "You're leaving because of what I said." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "I'm leaving because of what I felt when you said it." Something passed between us then. Understanding, regret, acknowledgement. We both knew that lines had been blurred, boundaries tested. And we both knew that some doors, once opened even slightly, are hard to close again. Some moments teach us about ourselves in ways we never expected, I told him, closing my car door. This is one of those moments. As I drove away, watching him grow smaller in my rearview mirror, I wondered what would happen when I returned. Would we pretend nothing had happened? Would the tension dissipate or grow stronger? There were no easy answers, no clear path forward. I still don't know if I was wrong for feeling what I felt. If I was wrong for being flattered by his attention, for craving the validation, for enjoying being seen as a woman and not just as a wife or stepmother. Life isn't always black and white. Sometimes we live in the gray areas, in the complicated spaces between right and wrong, appropriate and forbidden. What would you have done in my place? Would you have stayed? Left? Confronted the feelings head-on? Sometimes the most difficult journeys are the ones we take within ourselves, facing truths we're not ready to acknowledge. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible or caught yourself longing for something you shouldn't want, subscribe to Tales of Lust for more stories that explore the complexity of human emotions and desires. Because sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones we never act on, the ones that live only in our hearts and minds, changing us in ways we never expected.